Are you ready for this?
Sure.
As one of the new generation's carriers of the torch, how do you say the blues survive? Is it evolving and how?
I think that the blues is evolving, and I have a lot of friends and peers and everything that are playing amazing guitar and blues guitar and singing and writing songs. So I think we're definitely in a really good spot, you know. I feel that maybe if the newer generation just go farther back, though, that's the only thing that I would suggest is just listening to stuff even farther back than, you know, the last 20 years or so, you know, it just kind of just becomes sort of music scholars in a way. That's the only thing. If that, you know, because the ability, technical ability and everything else, passion and everything is there. Definitely. But, you know, just the one thing I think may be missing in some of it is just the, you know, the depth. You know, it's sort of like learning history or anything else, you know, it's like you have to study history to know how to move forward, you know. Because, I mean, you wonder is the, you know, you wonder about the longevity of it, you know, and everything and how it's going to be even farther. But I think the blues is in good hands and I think it will. And I think there's something, I mean, look, records are coming back, you know, so it's not over till the fat lady sings or the skinny lady either.
Yeah, to add to that, we were talking earlier about bands and groups like Snarky Puppy and Wolfpack and all that. Do you feel that they have delved into this music? Do you feel like they have a different set of roots than the blues? Do you hear the blues in there somewhere?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because, you know, I mean, it's a lot of American music and a lot of stuff, you know, like Snarky Puppy and all those guys are virtuoso musicians. They're soulful. They're really cool. They're smart. They're living now and not in the past. And, yeah, it's just really exciting and kind of just fun. And they know about all this stuff in music, you know, more than I know.
Being a true scholar of blues guitar, how would you describe the process of crafting your own style or sound while staying true to the language and vocabulary of the blues?
Funny. Now, I do feel in the blues context, we're talking about straight up blues, I feel that there are rules and boundaries, but I think they're not as like rules like you would think of, oh, rules, I have to obey the rules. I think it's beautiful to have rules in the blues. What I mean by that is it's cool to kind of stick within these boundaries when you're playing like straight ahead blues. Like you wouldn't play like, you know, Metallica. I love Metallica, but you wouldn't infuse that into a certain kind of a blues context. Mm-hmm. You might write a song and put all these elements, and if Metallica and blues might be cool for your own personal statement. But I do think, and I love the walls that the blues has. It's a certain groove. It's a certain feel. It's a certain way you play. It's an attitude. It's a whole language that you have in the blues, from country blues all the way up until like 70s funky Chicago blues. Woo! You know, so I love those. Those rules are fun. It's fun to study how what makes these players unique. You know, and that's really cool. And I do feel there are walls. But at the same time, I do feel like there has to be somebody coming along to incorporate those things with something else and something new and keep an eye on the future. You know, so I think that really comes down to songwriting. If you're writing a song, do what you want, you know.
You said you feel that Hold On is your first true solo album. How is it different than your previous albums?
Well, to be honest, my first record, my first two records were basically kind of like all-star, beautiful times, you know, but it was sort of like all-star records. I was just sort of like the guitar player that backed up different artists, and we picked some songs and covers to do. And it was a fun, great time. And in the blues idiom, that's cool, you know, but I'm glad that I was able to make Hold On because it's my true statement of me personally and my reflection on a little bit of those times, a little bit mid after that, you know, playing through the different bands and now. it's kind of like a whole culmination of all of those different things all at once. So that's the reason why I'm so excited about it. You know, I'm not saying it's the greatest record I'll ever do. I'm not saying it's the greatest anything, but I'm just saying it's pure me and how I feel. And that is a big weight lifted because I feel like it's my duty to say something and say, hey, you know, I'm going through this. How about you? Let's have a conversation about it. Or maybe I can help you from something that I went through and inspire you, you know? Mm. So that's, to me, a very, you know, important thing, you know? Wow. I mean, like, think about Muddy Waters and all those guys. Those guys were writing songs in a very beautiful, simple way about life at that time. So now I need to talk about life at this time, you know, to get those guys respect. No. Sorry, I'm, you know, talking forever.
What about your choice of the organ trio as a medium for that?
Simplicity. Just wanted to make it simple. Just, you know, the songwriting, the guitar playing, just try and keep it simple. You know, simple grooves and just direct and easy for people to understand, you know. And I heard Johnny Henderson, the great Johnny Henderson, I heard him playing, and we done a gig together maybe a year or two ago in the UK with the drummer too, Matt Brown. And it was just so earthy and simple. And I don't play and sing at the same time. So trios sometimes is difficult for me with his drums, bass, and guitar. I do it sometimes, and it's fun. But when you have the organ, you got this big fat pad, and I can do my singing and then play something and then sing. You know, with the organ, it's just fuller sound. And yeah, and the record was I kind of wrote the songs around that, knowing that it was going to be like organ and drums and me. And I didn't want to do a classic like organ jazzy record because I can't play jazz. I want to do whatever kind of music, you know, whatever the feel was in that context. And that's a lot of fun, I think.
What do you have in the works for the future?
Well, I'm very inspired to write more songs now. Now that I tested the waters, you know, with this first record, doing everything myself, now I'm ready to do something else. But I have to just go out and work my butt off and get as many people to hear the record and play for many people and just gain new fans so I can just share my gift, you know. That's the main thing, just working right now. So I have to work a lot with my band.
How would you say YouTube affects music today?
Oh, YouTube is scary. YouTube is very scary because the thing is, anything you want, you can pretty much get it on YouTube in a way, you know. And that's a lot different than the crate digger, I like to call it, generation, you know. Because you find these little gems, you find these little things and you cherish it in a different way. And I'm a victim of this too. Like, I'm looking at YouTube 24 hours a day. I mean, I'm looking at YouTube all the time, and I know I lost something kind of along the way from just being able to afford one record at a time or one cassette or one mixtape or whatever at a time and listening to that over and over and over again. So that's why I say YouTube is scary, and I'm even a victim of it. And also MP3 players and everything, because you choose to listen at your favorite songs and don't listen at the other songs, and you just flip through constantly while you're on the airplane and everything. So with the record coming back, this is a beautiful thing, I think. And not just because it sounds great and all those things, but maybe you'll take the time to listen at the whole piece of music all the way through, like we used to do back in the old and prehistoric days that I come from, you know. I mean, but YouTube is fantastic. I mean, I'm such a contradiction when we talk about YouTube, because it's the most beautiful thing ever, because as a kid, I often wondered what these people looked like, sounded like, what they played like, what was their gear, all of this stuff. And now a lot of times you can just see it right there on YouTube. So for me, it's great, but I put in all the time of studying these records and stuff, you know. So the kids now, they have it really a lot easier and a lot harder to, focus on one thing, So that's my take on YouTube.